big general meeting called, I think by the SRC. The Vice-Chancellor spoke and he earned support, I think, from the student body by saying that he was writing to the Premier, Henry Bolte, to request a government inquiry into what had happened. Anybody familiar with Henry Bolte would know that he was an arch-reactionary who I still call him Hangman Bolte because of his willingness to proceed with the execution of Ronald Ryan in 1967 for political reasons, essentially. There was no way that there was going to be a government inquiry into it with Bolte as Premier. But what did happen was we organised a third demonstration because we were still determined, no matter how battered and bruised or fatigued. The core of us who were responsible for the organisation and promotion of the marches, we weren't doing anything for our university studies, I don't think, but we were very committed to this cause, the right to protest. We were working day and night, on printing leaflets or talking tactics and strategy, painting banners and placards. And I think after the second protest, I should mention that the Summerhill Hotel was a bit of a gathering point for the left, and I do recall that there were a few tables, long extended tables of people who had been on that demonstration, and we would gather there and discuss what had happened and what should happen next. The third demonstration was a resounding success. I don't know how many, 800 people attended. What had they achieved by beating us up? All they'd achieved was that we built a bigger movement, and we asserted that right by taking to the Waterdale Road for a third time. But there were many more students marching, and also it had widened considerably. Builders, labourers were there, and some of the wharfies, and I believe some of the local people had took up much more of the road than the smaller, earlier two marches. And the police were ready, believe me. I remember seeing down a side street, they had the horses ready and they had their paddy wagons. So they were prepared for another police riot. But I think they must have also been told by their police commissioner, who would have got his instructions from the Attorney General. This time, make sure you don't do a repeat performance. We don't want this to continue and to get bigger and bigger. Yes, so the third one, we were quite jubilant at the end of it that we had succeeded. We won that right to peaceful marching along a local suburban street. The other thing that the state achieved was that they really consolidated the militant left-wing people as the leaders of the student movement on the campus. In particular, those who identified as or identified with Maoism. And then the stage was set for the following year. This movement with a militant leadership wasn't going to go away.
We behaved honourably and courageously, and the protests that we organised were important. And I don't think that we've ever got the credit that we deserve. At Trobe University, the Maoists were the most determined, most fearless, most energetic members of the student community, and we were able to fire up in one way or another the great majority of the students, and we were able to make a real difference, not just to the university but to society as a whole. And what we did contributed very importantly to the withdrawal of Australian troops from Vietnam and the changing nature of the relationship between Australia and the government and people of Vietnam. I think it should be remembered as an example of how a few determined people with a simple idea that is based on an important moral principle can actually fundamentally change, even if it's in a comparatively small way, the course of history. And I think that those demonstrations were very important and an important part of the history of La Trobe University. They're an important part of the history of the protest movement in Australia during the 70s and, made a real difference. They should be celebrated.
I knew it was going to be big. I knew there was going to be quite a few establishment figures there. When I say establishment, I mean senior university people, academics, and a lot of students would be there because the effect of the police violence was to mobilise a lot of fairly moderate students on the principle of freedom to march, freedom to speak, etc. My main worry was my father, because he told me that, he asked me if I was going to march, and I said, yeah, I would definitely be marching. He told me he'd be coming, and it was a sort of strange mixture of embarrassment. 19-year-old boy or whatever I was, who needs your father to protect you? So I didn't really appreciate what a huge thing it was for him. I just thought about it personally and thought, well, I'd rather be marching without him, but I really haven't got any choice. And so, along he came. But that's my main memory, and we were quite up the front.
I think that people who didn't actually even share our views, and I know this for a fact because there's people that I'd played football with and I still used to have a drink with, and what I think people started to realise was that these guys are fair dinkum. We weren't just prepared to get up there and talk. We were prepared to actually, put our bodies, I suppose, where our mouths were. And I've talked to people over the years since who confirmed that idea. But you look back after a period of 50 years and you look back and say, yes, I'd have done this or I'd have done that better. But honestly, I wouldn't have missed it, Barry. It was one of the most exciting, happiest times in my life, and I've really got no regrets. I really think they should be remembered as an important part of the movement against the war and of consciousness raising of people, that it was more than just a dirty war, more than just a mistake. It was part of, the imperialist war that we were involved in. But also I think the fact is, and I don't want to blow our own trumpets, Barry, there's many of other things happened all around the traps at the time. But I think the fact that we won in the end, that we got back to campus on that third demonstration, we got people to support us, and we got back and we took over the street. We used to chant, the people united will never be defeated. And in that situation, we were right. So I think it's significant. I really honestly do. And I'm not saying that just because we were there, but I think it was significant in its own maybe small way, but still in a significant way. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I've got to be honest and say we had a lot of fun, but we were also very serious, and I think in our own small way, we did help bring a vicious imperialist war to an end.